The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the set of my show, The Right Side. Today, President Trump's attorney and friend Peter Ticktin on the program, and we're going to cover a wide range of topics. Everything from the kooks that are coming out against me in Kansas because I'm winning and they're afraid, to his work with J6 victims and Tina Peters, his work with Tina out of Colorado. Peter is a hero, a lawyer, as I mentioned, a friend of Trump's. He's been drawn into my campaign precisely because of the kooks that are spewing lies and defaming me in the process. And we will deal with them behind the scenes. At least I try not to say anything bad about anybody who might do that. I always try to let it be water on the wing of a duck, as my dad used to say. Just let it roll off of you, Doug, like water on the wing of a duck. But we have got someone out there with whom I could never have won, who didn't want to give a speech, didn't want to fundraise, couldn't give an interview, couldn't speak in front of people, was just not a good choice. And so I think what happened is that person got angry and they began to slander and defame. That's my hunch. So otherwise, good people. We have 14 people on this campaign team, many of them in the banking, finance, and tech industry that have been giving me advice about KDOJ, the Kansas Department of Government Efficiency, where we're going to uncover about $1 billion worth of waste, fraud, and abuse. We have a treasurer, we have social media team, we have Jack and Bo Loudon, we have all sorts of people working on the campaign. We have social media people. This is a robust campaign. We have fundraising in place. We're making a difference. And we're winning, above all else. We're winning. And so, therefore, the kooks come out of the woodwork. It's really interesting. I've never run for public office. In fact, every one of the other candidates who stand a reasonable chance of making a dent in this thing are all part of the political swamp establishment. I'm the only populist political outsider. I'm the only one who can speak to you with this kind of passion and charisma and with the ability to keep you awake. You listen to the other candidates, it's like you're at a melatonin tasting contest. It's a snooze fest when you listen to other people. We've got a guy running for governor in Kansas who had ballots destroyed that were supposed to be protected and under investigation for fraud. Now, I can't say his name because it would be indiscreet. Scott Schwab. We have a president of the Senate in Kansas, a Republican, pretty much a good guy, kind of looks like a used car salesman, but he allowed a satanic black mass to happen on the steps of the Capitol, saying, well, it's free speech and we might not like what they do, but we've got to allow it. Nonsense and BS, ladies and gentlemen. The founding fathers had no intention to wrap Satanism in the sacred blanket of free speech. In fact, at the very least, what would have happened to people back in their day is that they would have been tarred and feathered had they attempted to conduct a black mass. In the worst case, perhaps, or the best, depending on your point of view, they would have been burned at the stake. We have another person in office who was appointed governor by a failed governor who now wants to be governor again, who's a real snoozer, who has zero charisma. Folks, this is a time where we need political outsiders and populist candidates to rise to the top and represent the will of the people, the populist movement throughout the state. And that's what this campaign is doing. We're winning, and therefore the attacks. And I understand, although I've never played this game before, I've never been involved, I'm an outsider, but I get it. Now, every bit of nonsense, the local radio guy in Wichita, John Whitmer, with an audience of like 2,000 people, I didn't want to go on his show because he's disparaged us from the very day that I announced I was running. And so why would I want to do that? Well, he gets angry and pissed, so he begins to then jump into the fray and share all sorts of lies, nonsense, and misinformation about the campaign. It's what some rhinos do. Unfortunately, our side in public is famous for feeding upon members of its own party when lies and misinformation are given because they don't want me, the populist, outsider, non-political candidate, to win because it represents an end to their agenda. Ask Mr. Whitmer to stand up in public and decry and bemoan and demand that the Kansas GOP recant their pay-for-play scheme with regards to participation in their debates. He won't do it because he's part of the swamp. So all of this to say, I really don't like giving nonsense oxygen, but this is ridiculous. And anyone with any shred of intellectual maturity sees it. Peter Ticktin sees it, and that's why he's on board. That's why he is on board, and that's why we're a step closer to the Trump camp. So, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy this interview. My conversation with Peter covers, as I said, an array of topics. It's very interesting. It goes for about 49 minutes, 50 minutes or so. So make some time, give it a listen, and you will be enlightened and a bit enraged about what they are doing in this country to Republican, conservative, MAGA patriots, including me, including Tina Peters, including the J6ers. They did the same thing to President Trump, by the way. We stand tall. We understand that most people get it. It's kind of like a car wreck. A lot of people might watch. A lot of people might check out what they post, but at the end of the day, very few people believe it. They understand there's two sides to every story, and that the kooks are the ones who often make these crazy, wild-ass accusations. All right. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, my interview with my friend and attorney, Peter Ticktin. Hi, everybody. What a great an honor it is to have Peter Ticktin with me today, who's become a friend and is an attorney, a personal childhood friend and a current friend of President Trump. He's got lots of stories to tell regarding all of that, and doing great work for the Patriot movement across the Republic, including work with our J6 victims and Tina Peters out in Colorado. Most of you who follow this show, at least, know that I speak a lot about both of those topics. And we are here today to talk to him about an update on what he's doing. Let him introduce himself to you, this audience. And ladies and gentlemen, Peter Ticktin. Peter, thanks for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Always good to be with you one way or the other.
It's and I want to give a special shout out to our mutual friend Cameron Moore, who introduced us. Actually, a couple of years ago, we had a birthday party for Cameron. You and I and some others made little video clips for him, and we met down at it was either Mar-a-Lago or Bedminster. I can't remember which place, but anyway, we've crossed paths, and I want to give a shout out to Cameron. What a patriot he is.
You know, he's just a good soul, good person.
Yeah.
You know, and that's, you know, that I see a lot of that among what we're calling patriots, what are patriots, the people that are in this fight. You know, the ones that understand that we're in a war.
Yeah. There are those, and then there are those who sometimes go crazy, and we as Republican and MAGA conservative folks, we run into those who go a little bit crazy and feed on our own, and they try to dissuade others from the message because of one reason or another.
I know, and I just can't quite grasp how they do that. How do they rationalize it? How do they just react to one thing that's bothering them? Okay. So, I mean, when the alternative is hell, how do you really have such a big problem over a little splinter or a little problem that you want to now destroy our friends, and which has to help our foes? When you consider the magnitude of what we're fighting here.
Right.
We need every ounce that we can get on our side.
Amen. Yeah, and speaking from personal experience, certainly since I've filed to run for governor of Kansas, a lot of the, I've calling them kooks, probably a little bit too nice, but they come out of the woodwork and they take little splinters, little disagreements, and they blow them up into major events when they should, they espouse to possess these American traditional values, Christian values, Judeo-Christian values, whatever, and yet they crucify people in public just because of a disagreement behind the scenes. They don't reach out. They don't try to understand. It's infuriating. It happens throughout the country on our side, and you very rarely see the left feed on their own in public anyway. I'm sure they give each other a beating sometimes behind closed doors, but that's, to their advantage and to their credit. They do it behind closed doors.
When you think about where we are in terms of the moment in history, we really need to encourage people to think before they act in that way. And unfortunately, it's there. And what doesn't make sense also for you, because of assuming, and I think that it's a good assumption, that you become the next governor of Kansas, you're going to be in a position where people are going to be hoping that you're going to be doing certain things, some things that benefit them, some things that just benefit the entire state. And what and it's just alienating you. They're being very foolish.
Right. Yeah, and it's too bad. We feel good over here. I am the only populist political outsider in the race. Everyone else is already a member of the establishment swamp. We have a rhino problem in Kansas, like we do everywhere in this country. And Peter, this is not an ego statement, but I'm just going to say, you're an attorney. You deal in facts and evidence. And so, evidence of the obvious for my campaign is that when I'm in the room with the other candidates, I win the room every time, Peter. That's not an ego statement. It's just a matter of fact. And the reason is because it's like when you're listening to the other candidates, it's like you're at a melatonin tasting contest. It's a snooze fest. They have no passion. They're politically correct. They don't want to go too far because they're afraid they're going to alienate certain. Well, this is this Trump won because he wasn't politically correct and because he wasn't afraid to tell it like it is. And that's our advantage. And that's why we've won the populist movement. Western Kansas, the rural part of the state, is all ours. We have to work on the cities that are turning a little bit blue, purplish. But we feel good about the way we can present the facts, the case, just by virtue of how I can deliver a message. And that's our advantage. That's what because we're certainly not a household name over here. I admit that. But we're working on that. And the people will come out in certain numbers to quell that because we represent what Trump does. And that is a danger to the establishment.
Yeah, maybe it's too bad you're not running in Montana where people would know your name better.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, Grandpa Billings in Billings, Montana, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you from Raytown, Missouri, that's what Peter's talking about. Thank you very much. All right, well let's talk about you. I know Tina Peters. The dear woman has been through absolute hell for doing her job as a county clerk and holding people accountable in Colorado. Give us the update in your work you're doing with Tina. What can we expect? And I guess the question is too, Peter. You can address this in whatever order you want to. People are wondering and scratching their heads. Why hasn't President Trump stepped in and given her a pardon? But take it from the beginning or wherever, and give us an update on Tina.
Okay, I'm happy to. But first, maybe I should let people know a little bit about myself since
Please do.
all
Yeah,
they know is
please
that
do.
I'm a
Yeah.
lawyer, and God help us. Uh, do we really want lawyers involved in anything? The old quote from Shakespeare about that lawyers will be the first to go. Uh, but that really is always misquoted. What the Shakespeare was actually saying is that if you want tyranny, the first thing that has to go are the lawyers.
Mm.
So because we do have our place in society and we do tend to keep things together, although there's so many of them and so many judges that have gone awry at this point in time. So yes, I'm friends with Donald Trump. I know him from since I'm 15 years since we were 15 years old, and we had hold on a second, hold on, Deb. Okay,
I can edit that out, Peter. Go ahead. You can take it.
okay,
Okay. Yep.
all right, okay. She didn't realize that I'm back on here.
That's fine.
Okay. That that's okay. So
So
we actually lived together when we were Donald Trump and I lived together in our 17th year when we were 17 years old. He was my captain. He appointed me to be his platoon sergeant at New York Military Academy, the first platoon. And so we basically worked together that year, and we were very close. Uh, and so since he said it, I can say that we were best of friends
wonderful.
in our senior year of high school. Since then, I've known him and gotten along with him. Love the guy. I mean, there's a love there. Same as most of your audience. If they think about somebody that they were very close to in high school, if they saw them later, 20 years later, 5 years later, 50 years later, it doesn't make any difference. It's something that you kind of pick up on pretty quickly, and you know their essence, and there's a love. Uh, but really, I became more active when Alina Habba asked me to assist her, and then I got closer again to Donald Trump. I mean, through the years, it would be, "Hi, how are you?" and it's, like a good feelings, but he wasn't about to start telling me about all his business dealings. I wasn't telling him about my cases and so on.
Yep.
We read about each other in the newspapers, but it was really just a hello and a kindness. Um, so uh, so once I started working on the case against Hillary Clinton, the one that now is finally getting proven in the public.
Hmm.
That time we filed suit against Hillary Clinton and 30 other people and corporations and so on, which got dismissed by a left-wing judge. And that's coming up for appeal in the next month or so. It's going to be argued. But in any event, I also was appointed at that point to be in charge of marshaling the evidence in regard to January 6th, where I reported directly to the president. So once that came about and I started doing that, and then it became public, then I was drinking like from a fire hose in terms of information. And there's so much about January 6th that nobody knows. Uh, Not yet. And we're going to get it out there. In fact, I can tell you now that, the January 6th was actually planned in advance by the left. I've
Peter,
got,
can I just interject one quick?
sure.
Thank you for saying that, because since January 6th happened on this show, I've been saying, and this has been a setup. I think Nancy Pelosi, the whole gang, giving permission to dress up as MAGA supporters, the Capitol Police on the take, the whole thing. I haven't been the conspiracy theory guy, but I've been saying that. So it's good to hear.
Well, I've got videos of the meetings on Zoom with hundreds of people in them. We know their names and we know who needs to deal with this because that really truly was an insurrection. Not the way they're saying it against the MAGA people that were there, singing songs like God Bless America
Yeah.
and praying on the Capitol grounds. I'm not talking about them. They are not insurrectionists. They were simply there to protest peacefully.
That's
The the people that actually started this thing started it months before. We have videos that go back into September. We had an infiltrator that was basically videoing his screen of the Zoom meetings. So that's why we have so much.
hmm
And anyway, the fact is that January 6th was something else, but people also knew because I could get information to the president or whatever. So, which I do to this day because people fill me in where they've got something important that I check it out. I never just turn somebody else on to the president, but I will, if it's important information, I'm able to get it to the president.
hmm
So that was how this all started in terms of where my position is and where I went from one thing to the next. So that's why I'm dealing with January 6th defendants, representing at this point probably close to 400 with Mark McCluskey, who is the
Mark's a friend of mine.
okay, well,
Yeah.
and he's famous. He and his wife, he
Yeah.
helped
Yeah.
off Black Lives Matter from burning down his house and killing
His
him and
dog.
his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, and his dog. Yeah. Yeah. No, and he's a wonderful patriot as well. So we are handling a lot of January 6th cases. At the same time, I'm involved in just so many things. It's hard to even explain,
Yeah.
but ultimately, you were asking about the Tina Peters case, and that's one of where I'm again, I'm highly privileged to be able to participate on the level in which I participate, and to be lead counsel for Tina Peters at this point is to me it's a blessing
Yeah.
because it allows me to do some good where justice is being screamed for. Okay, where things are very wrong, but I can also point out to you at this point because it's related that And if you think, let's put pieces together, okay? Because there's a lot of different pieces here. We know about the weaponization of government. We know
Yes.
about the DOJ, but it's also each of the liberal states also are going after people. And, let's just think about it for a second. I mean, I don't know if there anybody in your audience thinks that the election of 2020 was fair. But
No.
if so, please call my office. I got a bridge in New York. It goes all the way to Brooklyn, and I'd love to be able to sell that to you. So, no, if most people understand, anyone who actually looked at it fairly knows. I mean, think about it. You got no state ever in the history of the United States through one war or another, even the Civil War, never stopped the count. No state ever stopped the count. And on the night of January 3rd, 2020, three, four states, four swing states, all at the same time, all stopped the count without communicating with each other. Yeah, as though that and when we went to sleep that night with the count stopped, Donald Trump was ahead. And then you wake up the next morning and Donald Trump lost and all these changed. And in the meantime, the graphs of the votes show that, what is it, 98% of the votes at that point on to change it all were for Biden, and hardly any votes at all were for Trump because the fix was in. We know that the fix was in. We know what they did. Uh, so, or just think about the camera from the top of the counting room in Fulton County, Georgia, where, first of all, why did they have aprons around the tables? Normally, in a room like that where people are doing work, you don't have cloth hanging that covering around the sides of the tables. You do in a banquet situation where you want to have modesty panels, so you put those around tables, but not in a workroom like a counting room. But we know why they had them there. We know that they told everybody to leave because it was a broken water main, and we know that there was never any broken water main. But that left four people in the counting room. And those four people then, as soon as they were alone, reached under the tables, under those aproned tables, for what was hidden by the aprons, which were the suitcases that were filled with ballots that were never folded, mail-in ballots that were never folded. And so then they took these ballots and they put them through the machines over and over again. So we know that the election was fixed, but it wasn't fixed by Joe Biden because that man couldn't fix a flat tire. All right.
Yeah.
They were fixed by who? And that's part of what we're getting to know now, thanks to Senator Fincham and in Mark Fincham in
Mark Fincham.
Arizona,
Yep.
who I can't praise enough. Look, there's a lot of people that are seeking the truth that have the guts to do what's right. And for all of us that are there, we know that our lives are on the line in the event that we don't succeed. If the left should ever take over again, it's not just that they're going to arrest all the J6ers like they did the J6ers. They did it to people that were close to the president. Look at Roger Stone. Look at Michael Flynn. Look at Peter Navarro. Okay. They did it also to people involved in cyber currency. So if you weren't in Bitcoin or Ethereum, you were nailed. Either first they would debank you by telling the banks this is a bad person, and the next thing you know, your accounts are all closed. And
Yeah.
then if that didn't work, then they prosecuted you.
Yep.
They prosecuted police officers around the country that were MAGA, and they prosecuted members of the upper middle class. I have people calling me. One guy has $115 million seized, didn't have enough money to hire a lawyer. This is what they did. This is what they did to so many people. I didn't know about these other ones, but since I started doing pardon work, I'm getting calls from all over the United States
Mhm.
to innocent people that have been given lengthy sentences for nothing at all, where they're basically innocent people. that have been targeted by this false government. Tina Peters is another one that was targeted, but she was targeted by her state government. And what you and I know is that she is nailed for doing her job, for being doing what was necessary for any patriotic American to do when she sees that something's not right. And what she did, really, the bottom line, she copied the hard drive on her computer and didn't give it up. There were a couple of other clerks of other counties that also copied the hard drives, but they gave them up, so they didn't go to prison. But Tina Peters didn't. So of all the counties, I think there's 60 counties in Colorado, and of all the counties, she's the only one that did not yield to the pressure of the Secretary of State, who in fact has no authority over her. And she's actually convicted for not obeying what that person had to tell, basically demanded of her. So, the whole thing's a setup. The whole thing's fixed with a crooked judge who basically found that she was a charlatan and called her that in the sentencing. So when you think about that, I mean, who calls somebody a charlatan
Yeah.
other than a charlatan?
Yeah. It's
And
the
so,
classic liberal gaslighting. Yeah, it's what, yeah.
yeah. And so this is where we are. So where are we now? We have an appeal that's pending, and we've filed an initial brief in the appeal. I got to tell you, I've got incredible lawyers that were her team before I came in, and when I was asked to come in, I figured let's keep everybody, and if there's a problem, we'll figure out what that problem is. So we have Patrick McSweeney, who is he's a rock star, right? He's 4 years older than I am. Uh, but he still has his wits about him, and he's done some terrific work. Uh, we have a petition for writ of habeas corpus that's been filed in the federal court to allow her to be released pending the appeal. Okay,
Okay.
that's all we're asking for. We're not saying, hey, let her out altogether. Just while the appeal is pending, let her go, let her out. Because what if the appeal reverses this terrible decision? Why should she be serving time?
Yeah.
Especially considering that she's 70 years old. She's forced to sleep on a 2-inch mattress on a metal slab that doesn't give. She's basically, with men, you've got your maximum security, your minimum, your medium, your minimum security, your camps. Okay, for the women, they put them all together. So she's actually in the midst of murderers who are threatening her every day, and this is her situation. She told me that every night when the day is over, every night she's surprised that she managed to live through another day.
Mm.
This is the hell that she's
Oh,
living.
gosh. Yeah.
I know it's horrible, especially for somebody who's such a good person who's just doing right.
Yeah.
So she, uh, so where are we with the appeal? The appeal, they have another week to file an answer brief, and then we have a little time to file a reply brief. But appeals always take time. That's why we want we wanted to be out. The petition that was signed by McSweeney, but it was also written by the other attorneys on the case, John Case, Bob Sincar, and Stephanie Lampert, who is also a star. So, I mean, all three of them are just wonderful, and as well as Patrick. So all four, we got a team of 5 lawyers that are accomplished litigators. And anyway, with the petition for the writ of habeas corpus, which means that you have the body, literally, but it means you've got the body, we want the body, the live body, we want her out of custody. So you can go to federal court after state court. If somebody's in prison in state court, you can go to federal court, but you need a couple of reasons to get there. One is you need to have a violation of somebody's constitutional rights. And in this case, I'll explain that in a moment, where her rights are being violated. At the same time, you need to have exhausted all of your remedies in the state. In other words, if you don't bother to appeal, you don't have the right to then go to the federal court and seek a writ of mandamus.
Got it. Yep.
Okay. So in this case, there was a motion to have her released on bail. And when the judge turned that down, then that was taken up to the Court of Appeal asking for the release pending appeal. And the Court of Appeals turned that down.
Gotcha.
So we've exhausted all the remedies that we could possibly have. In this regard, there's three different arguments that we have that we want to pursue. And the magistrate judge is the one that's deciding this at first. And he basically, it's his opinion that we did not exhaust our remedies regarding two of the arguments. So the two arguments that we're basically needing to jettison, basically get rid of those arguments, because if we keep those arguments, I know we've got a judge who's basically going to say, you can't bring your petition for writ of cert, and that would mean we'd have to appeal that and run. By the time we get her released, the appeal will be over.
Yep.
So, we're kind of in a catch-22 situation where all we can do is say, okay, we'll get rid of 2 and 3, but we're keeping number 1. So 2 and 3 are really significant. Number 1, let's just call it number 2, is the 14th Amendment. And why does that come in? Because she did not get due process. This judge did not allow her, that trial judge, did not allow her to put on her case, to have a defense. Believe it or not. I mean, this woman is sitting in prison after a kangaroo court. And then number 3 is the fact that there's a supremacy clause, okay, in the Constitution that says that the federal, if there's a conflict, federal law overrules the state law.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what makes the federal law supreme over the state law. That's why it's called a supremacy clause. Okay. And so that is the third argument that we have. And there again, that wasn't a defense that was afforded her in the trial below. So but the number one thing, and those two, the magistrate judge feels that we didn't quite push those hard enough in the motion for bail pending the outcome of the appeal. And that's fair enough. That's his opinion. I do believe that this magistrate judge, unlike the trial judge, I do believe this magistrate judge is looking at this thing very fairly. I trust him because of the way he's read everything, the way he understands everything. And it's a matter of opinion where my opinion may differ from his slightly, but it's certainly no difference in terms of integrity.
Okay.
And thank God we have a really good magistrate judge looking at this. The only judge that I'm criticizing is the trial judge that heard the case, that basically did what he did and putting her in jail. She has a 9-year sentence.
Unbelievable.
About 9 months are served at this point. She's 70 years old now, and her crime was preserving the evidence. I mean, when you think about this, how can she be in prison and the people that wanted to destroy the evidence are not? I mean, look, I'm not twisting this. This is exactly what happened.
Yeah.
She preserved the evidence. And for that, she has to go to prison for 9 years, according to this left-wing judge. So the first ground is freedom of speech. And that's because the judge decided that she cannot be released because she's too dangerous.
Of course she is.
Because of what she might say.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Okay. So it has nothing to, and he feels that is even more dangerous than a violent criminal. He's made that clear. This is the way this judge is. I wouldn't say that's how he's looking at it. This is how he's rationalizing it, so that he can go forward with his agenda, which is to be the most horrible human being that he can be. Okay, because
Yep.
that's the way it is. All of this weaponization. I mean, when you think about the January 6th, I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but but I can go on and talk about freedom of speech and what it means to us and so on. But I think for your audience, I think for the most part we know, okay, that freedom of speech isn't really freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is freedom of thought. Words are labels for concepts. If I mention to you an apple, bang, right in your head right now. I don't know whether it's a green apple or a red apple, but you got one there in your head.
Yep.
If I mix up another word and take a label for a color and say a blue apple, I've used now two labels for two words, and I put something brand new in your head. You're now looking in your mind at a blue apple. Okay.
Yep.
So which is an invention. And it's
Yes.
because of the freedom of speech. The United States is what the United States is. It's why we're the most powerful nation in the world. It's why 4% of the world's population has 25% of the world's industry. It's because we have the freedom to invent. We have the freedom of thought. Once your thoughts are suppressed because you're not allowed to use certain words or say certain things, then it's like a cancer to your brain. It starts, you don't even know what you're not thinking about, obviously. And your thoughts become fewer and fewer and fewer. If we weren't allowed to say the word apple and we're not allowed to use the color blue, then we'd never have that concept that I just gave you of that blue apple. And so we wouldn't be able to invent the blue apple. And we wouldn't be able to ever achieve what we can with freedom of thought. So, and why do we need to curtail that? The only reason we need to curtail it is so the people that are doing nefarious things, people that are doing wrongful things, can get away with it. The, and that's where I was going to go in the very first place in terms of who is this cabal, right? So I'm full circle now to the beginning of what I was talking about. And for that, we have to look at the man I was mentioning before, Senator Fincham, with Act Blue and what he's found by measuring where we are with that. And this is some brand new stuff. So, Doug, I don't know whether you have heard about this or
Oh
not.
yeah, I know Mark. He's been on the show several times. Met him in person at Mar-a-Lago and other places. But yes, I know Mark and I know what he's doing. Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, a true American patriot.
100%. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So what did he find? Well, first of all, Act Blue, we've heard about that. The little old ladies would donate $5 three times in their life to Act Blue, thinking they're making a donation to, Joe Biden or whatever. And then the records show that there's 30 donations a day for $10,000 each for the last so many years. So it looked like it was the cartels that were funding, using their drug money, using their human trafficking money, and it looked like the cartels were basically funding the Democrat Party. But now we see much more. We see that, you can get a mortgage. Let's say you get a house, you buy a house for $300,000.
Okay.
And then you refinance the house and you put another mortgage on the house for $300 million. Okay. Now,
Hmm.
you can't do it,
Yeah.
obviously, unless you've got $300 million, but this is what's been going on. Already, Toronto Dominion Bank was actually uh, fined $1 billion because of this kind of activity. So it's not just me making it up. It's what really is going on in our world.
Hmm.
So if you've got that happening, it adds up to be a lot of money. And we also know these people are on the take. The tax appraisers in each county that where this happens, they're on the take. Otherwise, they would revalue the property and put it up to 300 million. So that's not happening. So we know what is happening here, but the amount is absolutely staggering. The amount we're talking about in terms of how much money has been filtered through this money laundering scheme called Act Blue is above $1.6 trillion.
Wow. Yep.
So now we know that it isn't the cartels. It could also be the cartels involved, but it's not them because they don't have that much money. They may have a couple of 100 billion, but that's, we're looking so far above that.
Yeah.
So the consensus seems to be that we're talking about China.
My goodness. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so I hope I didn't scare you too much.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
But if we are, we're at war.
Unbelievable. Wow. Well, very believable, actually. Yeah. We are at war if that's the case, Peter.
Yeah. Well, we know we're at war anyway. We
Yeah.
know that they
Yeah.
already, attacked us with a biological weapon.
Yes.
I mean,
Correct.
people
Yeah.
look at the wrong question there.
Yeah.
They think the question is, did they release the virus intentionally, or was it released by accident from the Wuhan lab? We know it's from the Wuhan lab. I mean,
Yep.
that's not a question anymore.
Yep.
And but they try to hide all these things, so we can't find out or figure it out. But we know it's from the Wuhan lab. We don't know if it was released intentionally or by accident. We can suspect, and we can come to logical conclusions, but it could have been either way. The point is that after it was released in Wuhan, and the population, it was spreading through the population of Wuhan, they stopped all flights to every major city in China.
Hmm.
Okay, you couldn't get from Wuhan to Beijing. You couldn't get to Wuhan to any major city in China. But the flights were opened up for the United States and Western Europe. So there's no question that they sent it here on purpose. If it acted responsibly, they would have closed down all flights to anywhere.
Right.
But
Yep.
they didn't. So they directed it here. They directed it to us. They inflicted that. So that's a biological weapon that they sent here. We know that they're killing people with fentanyl. Why? How?
Yeah.
We know that they do anything that they can to harm business. We know that buying real property right next to air bases where they may be accumulating drones to be able to just do what the Ukrainians did in Russia
Yep.
of hitting our weapons. We don't know how many members of infantry or anything else came into the United States when the border was wide open.
And that's scary. We talk about that quite often. There are bad actors in this country ready to act out, and it's terrifying. I mean, it's really a real threat. And you have, to your earlier point about these activist judges, Peter. Yeah, I am amazed. You have radical liberal judges, radical liberal states attorneys generals, district attorneys, and so forth, who buy into this same kind of mindset. And President Barack Obama was the first one to say it out loud. America needs to be fundamentally transformed. The second I heard that, I said, well, that's anti-American. Fundamentally transformed away from what? The divine providence of God, the intent of the founding fathers. What exactly are we supposed to be fundamentally transformed away from, Mr. President Barack Obama? And they begin to do this in slow motion. And over time, judges who fail to prosecute violent criminals with extreme prejudice, right? They give them light sentences if they're sentenced at all, let out early. Meanwhile, you've got Tina Peters, 70 years old, following the law, saving and preserving evidence. She's in prison. I mean, it's maddening, but it's all, I think, most of it. And the border, of course, we can't leave that out, because beyond just wanting to pad the voter rolls, and providing benefits to illegals, if they give this box of ballots to the guy in the white van over there, fill it out and we'll give you all sorts of free stuff. But the more, I think, frightening aspect of that is that they want to purposefully dilute the American identity. When I used to be in corporate America, I would see this in Germany, France, Italy, and England all the time. They have such a bad immigration program and policy and procedure over there. France has no idea of national identity anymore, precisely because of their immigration problems. That's what they wanted to do here. And whether China's helping them or not, that we've got everybody on the radical left buying in to all of this, I think, just absolutely obvious anti-American rhetoric and action.
Well, $1.6 trillion goes a long way.
Yeah,
And that's not all of it. That's just from Act Blue. So, no, these people have infiltrated us in many, many ways when they take over all of our media, when they take over our educational systems. That was the first to go. Once they take over, I mean, they've even taken the Roman Catholic Church at this point.
right, right.
So, we are the last country in the world. By the way, what you mentioned about France is what's most surprising in a way in that regard is there was never any country that dealt with its national identity stronger than France. And its satellites, Quebec, for instance, in Canada, how we had major problems in Canada that we saw over the years when Pierre Trudeau was the prime minister and
Yep.
he had to invoke the War Measures Act uh, because of that, because of the FLQ that were
Yes.
active there, and I think they killed one or two people, but they were under martial law. And anywhere, if you traveled into Canada, anywhere you went, even Ontario, that had nothing to do with it, you saw soldiers on top of buildings and so on with their rifles.
Mm-hmm.
It was it because of that French identity, the needing to make sure the French language survived and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And look at France now.
Yep.
It's all being taken over.
Yes.
Most people don't understand, a lot of what has occurred in that regard. But I think I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Battle of Vienna in 1683.
Not specifically, no. Yep.
No, they don't teach it in our schools,
Yeah.
but it's one of the most important battles ever in the history of the world. Obviously, the Battle of Vienna was in Vienna, Austria, and it was the Crusades. It was the Christians, and I guess some Jewish people, but mainly the Christians against the Islamists.
Yeah.
And in fact, we celebrate that battle to this day with a pastry that was made to celebrate that victory, which was the beginning of the end of the Ottoman Empire. And to this day, we eat croissants,
Oh,
which are the shape of the Islam symbol of the crescent moon. And we eat croissants to celebrate the victory in the Battle of Vienna. And because from that point on, the West was able to hold down the Islamists through not the decades, through the centuries. 1683 was a long time ago.
mm-hmm.
And from that point on, the West basically has prevailed. We went through our Renaissance age, we went through our Industrial Revolution, and throughout all of it, we kept them down. So they have tremendous resentment. Now, the date of that battle in 1683 was September 11th.
Oh,
And that is why the towers came down on September 11th, because that's the anniversary of the victory at the Battle of Vienna.
interesting.
So,
Never knew it.
yeah,
Yep.
I thought that would
Yep.
be of interest to
Well,
you.
yeah, and that's a whole nother topic. This whole immigration problem that we have with radical Islamists, it's an issue, and I've just begun to really talk about it. It's something that it, it needs to be addressed. It's a
Well,
problem.
hopefully Kansas it doesn't quite have so many people brought into it. I'm hoping that the people of Kansas aren't looking around saying we're not in Kansas anymore, Toto.
Not quite yet, but we've got a mosque down the street, and it's the first one, and it's yeah, it's happening. So it's a trend that it's concerning.
Well, thank God we've got the president that we have, because I got to
Oh my
tell you,
gosh, yeah.
he's our only hope.
Well, I certainly hope that we have time to meet, whether it's at Bedminster, Mar-a-Lago again, Peter. I would love that, and thank you. We folks, we thought we were having a 20-minute conversation, and we're almost at 45 minutes. So I can't be when Peter Ticktin gets going. It's just I cannot stop. It's so interesting, and the time flies. But Peter, if you've got some final thoughts or points that you want to make to wrap up, I'll give you a last word, and then I'll let you go.
No, just that those who know we're at war, those who know what's really going on, understand that there's many of us, and we see it, we understand it, we're fighting it. And right now, thanks to what's going on in the White House, thanks to people like Tulsi Gabbard, I think Kristi Noem is on the ball with this stuff.
Obviously, Tom Homan.
Oh, obviously.
Yep.
Yeah, but thanks to the few truly wonderful ones that we've got, also some people in the Department of Justice, people like Ed Martin that I've been dealing with lately, and he's wonderful. He understands. They understand what we're facing. They understand exactly what we're dealing with. So there's reason for hope, but we still need you to get out there. I do think that we're going to see a really good midterm election, because I believe there'll probably be a national emergency called. The voter rolls are corrupted. The machines are now provably uh, changing the vote. So with these things in the works, I do believe that we will see that there's going to be a national emergency on elections, and that will overcome the fact that only the state legislatures under the Constitution have the right to make the rules of the voting for each state. So that's got to change before the 2026 election, or we're done.
Very interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We obviously on this show, we talk about getting rid of the machines. We mentioned a lot of patriots, many of whom I know: Mark Fincham, Roger Stone. General Flynn has endorsed my campaign for governor, so we're grateful for that. And Mike Lindell, we didn't mention how they've gone after. I'm practically trying to financially ruin that man and
Well,
everything.
that's why Tina Peters is in prison.
Yes, yes,
Because while Dominion Machines was suing Mike Lindell, they wanted to clean up and make sure there was no evidence so that he could properly defend himself.
right.
And that's why the trusted build, which is what they called what they were putting into the computers, which is it's like the Ministry of Truth in the book 1984. It's exactly the opposite of what it is. The trusted build is something that was to not be trusted at all. It was going to wipe out all the evidence of the fix of the election of 2020. And they needed to do that in a hurry because of the lawsuit that they had going against Mike Lindell. So, it's all related. It's all one major cabal. All the things that we're seeing are all interrelated, and it's pervasive. And it's throughout the United States. It's everywhere, but at the same time, it hasn't taken hold yet where it can't be now rooted out. We still have time. And thank God we have a little time to be able to get this thing straightened. One
Does
thing for sure.
is President Trump on this page? Does he see this and know this?
Yes, thank God.
Okay, good.
Okay, if he didn't, nobody would.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
Excellent.
no, he under.
Well,
Yeah,
that's good. Many people, that I always encourage people to be patient. American justice doesn't work always as fast as we want it to. But
oh,
you have people out there calling for perp walks and this and that, and I go, hang on, let's take it one step at a time. And we have a system in place, and people like Peter Ticktin are working the system. I mean, you mentioned your appeal process, for example, and how you can't just jump to the federal level. So I'm continually giving people encouragement to remain faithful and patient.
Yeah, I just wish there was a little less patience in
I
our
know, I
government.
know.
Yeah.
I'm not good at patience myself, and I find it's strange. It's strange to advocate for it, but yes.
Yeah, no, frankly, I'm very impatient myself, and I want to see things done. And it's so frustrating when, when a court says you have 3 weeks to file a brief, and then you have 2 weeks to follow it, and you have another week. That's 6 weeks.
Yeah, yeah,
6 weeks. 42 days that Tina Peters has to look at this every night of those 42 days
yeah.
and be thankful that she survived another day.
Unbelievable.
It's very scary for her.
Very scary.
And
Well,
and
thanks for everything that you're doing out there, Peter. Thanks on behalf of myself, first of all, and also just on behalf of the Republic. Thank you for all of the good work, the hard work. You and your team of attorneys who were with Tina, the attorneys that you're working with and heading up the J6 situation. Thank you for all of that, truly.
well, I tell you, once you start down this path, once you start doing this kind of work, if you don't keep it up, I mean, what am I going to do? Give, walk away from it and
Right.
hope somebody else picks it up and then lose this country, in which case, I want your listeners to understand if we lose this thing, it's not as though it's okay. It's just another government that took over and is dealing with things in the right kind of a way. No, 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 no. You know, I hate to put it this way, but if that were to happen, I'm full of hope it's not going to happen. But if that were to be happening, I would say be scared, be very scared.
Yep.
This is not a situation that would just be a change of whoever. We have to look at whoever's picture is hanging in government buildings. It's not going to be like that. It's going to if Germany changed entirely when Hitler took over. This is going to make those look like good days.
Wow. Yep. Peter, will you come back? Will you come back and continue the discussions and keep us updated on various issues?
I'll be happy to.
Excellent. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Peter Ticktin. Peter, if people do are curious about you and your law firm and so forth, do you want to let people know where they can find you in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
firm?
by all means. Yeah, Legal Brains. Okay, so www.legalbrains.com. That's what we've
Legalbrains.com.
got. We've got lawyers with brains, so we've got legal brains. Uh, and by all means, go to our website, take a look at who we are. You can find who our email addresses and so on. So that's the place to look. Legal.
Legalbrains.com. I'll have that up at the bottom of the screen during the interview, Peter, for us. And
Okay. All
thank you
right.
for your friendship. Thanks for everything you've done for me and for the country. And
It's my
I'll be
pleasure.
in touch.
You got it.
All right. Good day, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, we're in this thing together for the Republic, for Kansas. Cheers. Well, there it was, ladies and gentlemen. What a brilliant mind, a brilliant attorney. Don't forget to support him. Go to the website and support Peter. If you need advice, please reach out to him. Reach out to his law firm. He'd be happy to help. The kooks will be the kooks. We're not going to give it any oxygen. Again, as I said at the beginning of the program, my dad's wise words: let it be water on the wing of a duck, Doug. Don't let it bother you. And it doesn't. It's laughable. It's interesting, and it just brings more attention to us. So let them keep up the nonsense if they want to. You good people in this audience, you good people who have known me for the past 5 years, understand that the kookery that's in play is because the establishment swamp doesn't want this campaign to win. Thank you for your continued support. Let's continue to meet each other in determined prayer and in determined patriotism. After all, we are in this thing together, ladies and gentlemen. Believe it, for the Republic and for Kansas. God bless you. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
I want to tell you about the good people over at EMP Shield, electromagnetic pulse. Electromagnetic pulse, ladies and gentlemen. It can fry your home electrical system or your vehicle's electrical system. But if you attach one of these, now this is for your breaker box at home. There's a smaller version that goes on your battery of your car, your vehicle, that will prevent it from being fried in the event of an electromagnetic pulse. Because as you know, thanks to Administrator Biden, many people coming across the border now who don't exactly have the best of intentions. Protect yourself. EMPshield.com. Get huge discounts over there if you use the promo code DOUG.